Daniel Grayson sat quietly in his luxury SUV, staring at the fogged-up windows of the restaurant in front of him. The sign above flickered, Silver Plate Family Grill. One of his first-ever locations. Once a thriving corner of the company, now plagued with poor reviews, complaints, and unusually high staff turnover. He had tried everything, new management, updated menus, marketing campaigns. But nothing had worked. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel. If he wanted to understand what was going wrong, he couldn't do it as Daniel Grayson, billionaire CEO. He had to walk into his own empire as a nobody. He reached for the duffel bag on the passenger seat. Inside were old sneakers, a worn-out polo, and a name tag that read Tom, trainee. His assistant had tried to talk him out of it. "You don't need to get your hands dirty, sir," she'd said. But Daniel had smiled faintly. That's exactly the point. Inside the back kitchen of the restaurant, the smell of grease and detergent hit him immediately. The heat was suffocating, the buzz of machines relentless. Staff buzzed around like bees in chaos, yelling orders, rushing past one another, barely looking up. A shift supervisor gave him a bored once-over. "You're the new guy." "Yeah." "Tom," Daniel replied, keeping his voice quiet. The supervisor handed him an apron without looking. "Dishes. Don't break anything. And don't ask stupid questions." He moved quickly, blending in. But even as he scrubbed plates and loaded trays, his sharp eyes scanned the team. He wasn't here just to pretend. He was watching. Listening. And that's when he saw him. A skinny young man with sunken eyes, maybe 19 or 20, hunched over the industrial sink, hands deep in soapy water. His shirt clung to his back with sweat, and his cracked fingers moved like he'd done this 1,000 times, with speed, precision, and silence. He barely looked up, even when steaming pots were dumped beside him. Everyone called him Luis. Daniel watched how Luis worked, how he took on trays no one else wanted to touch, cleaned quietly while others took breaks, and moved with a sense of purpose beyond the paycheck. Except, something about him didn't sit right. "Hey, kid," someone called. "Double shift again today?" Luis nodded wordlessly and turned back to the sink. "Double shift?" Daniel's brows furrowed. The boy looked exhausted. No one that young should have eyes that tired. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. He made a silent vow right then. He would stay. Watch. Learn. And if something was broken beneath the surface of this restaurant, he was going to find it. The restaurant had long since closed its doors to customers, but the kitchen still echoed with clinks, sprays of water, and the occasional sigh of exhaustion. Most of the crew had clocked out hours ago, but Daniel, still Tom to everyone, had volunteered to help close. He mopped in slow, even strokes, his muscles aching from the unfamiliar labor. It was humbling, in a way that boardrooms and spreadsheets could never replicate. Sweat rolled down his temple as he glanced toward the dishwashing station. Luis was still there. Still scrubbing. His soaked apron hung low, stained with the remains of the day, gravy, grease, tomato sauce. His hands trembled slightly as he stacked yet another load of clean plates. Daniel leaned his mop against the wall and wandered over. "Hey, you're still going?" he asked gently. Luis didn't look up. "Yeah. Dishwasher called in sick again. That's the second time today. Isn't someone else supposed to rotate in?" Luis gave a half smile, more tired than amused. "They left. Said it wasn't their problem." Daniel frowned. "You at least get overtime for doing double shifts." That's when Luis finally looked at him. Not with anger. Not with frustration. Just resignation. "I haven't been paid at all. Not since I started 3 weeks ago." Daniel blinked. "Wait, what? Not even your first check?" Luis shook his head. Manager said my paperwork was delayed. But it's okay. I just send what I can back home when I can. Daniel's heart clenched. To your parents? Luis hesitated. Just my mom. She's sick. Needs meds every month. I'll take what I can get. He turned back to scrubbing, as if the conversation had already ended. Daniel stood frozen, the weight of the moment settling in his gut. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was something else entirely. Something wrong. Exploited. Forgotten. And it was happening, under his name. Daniel sat at the small motel desk, staring at the glow of his laptop screen. The hum of the old air conditioner filled the room, but his mind was racing louder than any machine. Luis's quiet words from earlier played on repeat in his head. I haven't been paid at all. I just send what I can to my mom. He logged into Silver Plate's internal HR system under his real credentials, no disguises now. His fingers moved quickly, searching for Luis's name. Nothing. No employee file. No ID badge registered. No hiring forms. It was like Luis didn't exist in the company. Daniel's heart sank. He opened the branch's time-tracking logs and cross-checked employee shifts. Dozens of dishwasher entries showed up with vague labels like temp, night help, or just unassigned. But based on the hours and notes, Daniel recognized the shifts Luis had worked, every day, every night, sometimes back-to-back. It wasn't just negligence. It was being intentionally hidden. He pulled up the manager's file, Craig Tolliver. Recent cost-cutting memos. A sudden drop in reported payroll hours. 5 HR complaints from dishwashers in the past year, all marked, resolved, but not a single resolution note. His blood boiled. Craig had been using undocumented workers to save money. And Luis, kind, hardworking Luis, was just the latest. Daniel picked up his phone and called his assistant. Lisa, I need you to prepare a full internal audit of the Oak Ridge branch. Payroll, hiring practices, complaints. Everything. Quietly. What happened? She asked, sensing the tension in his voice. Daniel's tone was cold and steady. I found rot in my house. And I'm tearing it out, starting tomorrow. The restaurant buzzed with its usual morning chaos, orders printing, plates clattering, and employees rushing to prep stations. But all motion stopped when the front doors swung open, and in walked Daniel Grayson, no longer Tom the trainee, but the CEO of Silver Plate Restaurants. He wore a sharp suit and the kind of presence that silenced a room. Craig Tolliver, the branch manager, stepped out of his office, clearly startled. His confident smirk faltered. Mr. Grayson. This is unexpected. Daniel didn't smile. Staff meeting. Now. Within minutes, every employee stood gathered near the dining area. Luis lingered in the back, confused and unsure, clutching a rag in one hand and watching from behind a pillar. Daniel stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. 2 months ago, I noticed this branch had the highest turnover and lowest employee satisfaction. So I came in undercover. I worked your shifts. I washed your dishes. I listened. He scanned the room, locking eyes with Craig, then motioned toward Luis. And that's when I met Luis. A young man working 12-hour days, without a single paycheck. Not even a name in our system. Gasps rippled through the staff. Daniel continued, voice tight with emotion. This isn't a clerical error. It's exploitation. And it ends now. He turned to Craig. You're fired. Effective immediately. HR and legal will follow up. Craig opened his mouth, but Daniel didn't give him the chance. Then he faced Luis directly. Luis, you're getting every dollar owed to you, with a bonus. And more than that, we're offering you a scholarship and a position at our headquarters. Your strength, your work ethic, it deserves better than silence. Luis's lips parted, trembling. The room around him blurred as tears welled up in his eyes. He had been seen. And finally, he mattered. 2 months later, the main auditorium of Silver Plate headquarters buzzed with quiet excitement. Employees, executives, and interns filled the rows, waiting for the start of the monthly company town hall. But this time, there was more anticipation in the air. Word had spread about a special guest. Daniel Grayson stepped onto the stage, the same confident presence, but now with something softer in his gaze. "Today isn't about numbers or quarterly results," he began. "It's about a reminder of who we are when no one is watching. And who we must become if we want to build a company with a soul." He paused, then gestured to the side of the stage. "Please welcome, Luis Mendoza." There was polite applause at first, until the crowd saw him. Luis walked out slowly, wearing a crisp white button-down shirt and navy slacks. His hair was neatly combed, and a small badge clipped to his pocket read, "Luis Mendoza, Employee Advocate Intern." The applause grew louder. Luis stepped to the microphone, his hands slightly shaking, but his voice clear. "2 months ago, I was washing dishes in the back of a restaurant, invisible to most people. I worked double shifts. I skipped meals. I sent money home for my mother's medicine." A hush fell over the room. "I thought no one cared. But one man did. And he wasn't just anyone, he was the CEO." Luis looked at Daniel, his eyes wet. "Because of him, I now work here. I'm learning. I'm growing. And I've been given the chance to speak for others who are still in the shadows." The room stood in applause, longer, louder, heartfelt. In that moment, Luis wasn't just an intern. He was a symbol of dignity restored, and hope reborn.